So after Bitcoin privacy took quite a beating across earlier this year in the indictment of Samurai Wallet, you had Wasabi Wallet shutting different things down. It's been nice to see the sort of privacy game of whack-a-mole continuing. You have different forks of Wasabi Wallet. Ginger Wallet is an example of that now. And we've also just seen a fork of Samurai Wallet, a new project called Ashigaru. Now, to be clear, I believe that is just the wallet itself and is not a replication of the Whirlpool CoinJoin server. And indeed, there were efforts underway before Samurai went down to decentralize that Whirlpool implementation. So it'll be interesting to see whether Ashigaru picks that piece of it up as well. But suffice it to say, very nice to see. And for those of you that have watched my channel for some time, you know that I've covered quite a bit on the topic of Bitcoin privacy, which is important, right? In our age of ever increasing surveillance. And of course, this is not an endorsement of illicit activity or anything like that. You simply have a right to financial privacy. And so I've covered techniques like collaborative transactions or coin joining on this channel, which helps with go forward privacy. But arguably an even better technique is to acquire Bitcoin in a non-KYC fashion in the first place, meaning acquiring Bitcoin in a way in which you're not giving away and divulging all your personal information to a centralized exchange or what have you. And so I've covered tools on this channel such as BISC, such as RoboSats, which enable individuals to do exactly that. But today I'm excited to cover a new tool that has burst onto the scene, seen a ton of different traction in Brazil, and is now continuing to expand to other markets. And that tool is called SpikeToSpike. So today we're going to talk about what that is, and I'm going to walk you through an example trade. Let's jump in. This video is made possible by Bitcoin trading cards, and I am pumped to have them as the first sponsor on my channel. I met Aladdin and the team back at Pacific Bitcoin 2022, and I'm not going to lie, at the time I thought, okay, cool, a quirky little Bitcoin project, but little could I have imagined at the time how this project would capture imaginations. I've personally used these to orange pill people that I care about in my life. The art is stunning and features Bitcoin artists all around the world. You get high quality Bitcoin education on topics like economics and freedom as part of that, which makes this, as you can imagine, a really special project for me. And I'm not gonna lie, it makes you want to collect these. The community behind this is also truly insane. And I think they have a real shot at bringing Bitcoin to the mainstream. So if you're curious to check them out, head over to btc-tc.com where you can find the different series they've launched. And hey, if you do end up snagging some cards, you'll also get some Bitcoin rewards back on your purchase, powered by Joltz. Here's to ripping packs and stacking sats. Okay, so first I'm going to give you a little bit of a background and kind of preamble on what is SpikeToSpike, how does it work. I think that's really important context, but if you want to skip straight ahead to the tutorial and take a look at what an actual trade looks like, I will flash that timestamp here up on the screen now. So feel free to flick ahead if you just want to jump right to that. So SpikeToSpike, as we can see, is all about enabling peer-to-peer buying and selling of Bitcoin. Today, it supports a number of different fiat denominations. You can even pay in things like USDT. Then it also supports Brazilian reals, British pounds, euros, and now US dollars. And across each of those, you're going to see different payment methods. And I'm told that those payment methods will continue to grow over time. So for example, and I know a lot of you watching tend to be either in the US, Canada, UK. And so something like Wise would be a good example. So this is a really important piece to just cover for those of you that are brand new to buying Bitcoin with no KYC, right? There's the platform on which you do that. And so today we're going to, of course, be covering SpikeToSpike. And SpikeToSpike itself has no KYC of any kind, right? No name, date of birth, address, all that sort of stuff. None of that. However, on any of these peer-to-peer platforms, there's then the question of the payment method. And that payment method oftentimes itself will involve some sort of KYC. So for example, the example I'm going to take you through today is using Wise as my payment method. And so for Wise, I've done all the KYC, right? And so what this practically means is that, yes, of course, Wise can see that you sent X value to this other individual on Y date, but Wise has absolutely no idea what you're sending that for. Is it to a friend or family member? Are you purchasing something, right? But that's the idea. That's like the separation here, is that even though you're using a KYC payment method like Wise, that payment is still happening peer-to-peer, and there's no way for Wise to know what it is that you're sending money for or paying for unless they come and ask you. Now, I do think they're going to increasingly support things like physical cash, right? And, being able to meet up, in real life, things like that. But of course, that carries with it its own sort of risks and trade-offs. So I just want to make that clear, right? Some of you will kind of comment and be like, this is not, non-KYC. Well, it's like, yes, it is. But in terms of payment method, maybe no, it isn't. So understand that distinction. So today, what's very cool about SpikeToSpike is that it is facilitated by a Telegram bot. You'll be sort of guided through the trading process in Telegram. I like that a lot because, a lot of people have Telegram. It's accessible for folks. But the other really exciting part is that these guys are coming out with a mobile app here pretty soon. So take today and take the current state of SpikeToSpike as being early, right? I would consider this kind of an early beta of this project, but I wanted to go ahead and put this out because I think this is a really powerful tool for folks. And I will no doubt come back and do probably a future video when they release the mobile app. So the last two pieces I want to comment on is how this works is that the trading intermediary on the other end, so who is the other peer, these are basically vetted providers, as SpikeToSpike calls them. And these are individuals. I think you can probably, contact SpikeToSpike if you want to become one. But these are individuals who basically, in this case, professionally provide liquidity. So you have this kind of vetted network of providers from whom you would be buying Bitcoin, etc. And in a way that's very nice because you essentially have guaranteed liquidity. With other platforms, you're sort of looking specifically at what existing offers are out there, and those offers may or may not match up with your criteria and parameters that you want for the trade. Last note, this vetted community of providers does have to deposit Bitcoin into a sort of escrow as a de-incentive to dishonest behavior, right? So if you send them a payment and they don't hold up their end of the bargain, SpikeToSpike can basically take their deposit. And so that's a common disincentive to dishonest behavior that you see in other platforms as well. But again, early stages here. Please acknowledge that. Obviously, always some degree of risk in doing these types of peer-to-peer trades. I believe once they launch the app, they will have a rating system as well for the providers, which will go a long way to building trust within the system. The very last thing I'll comment on before we jump into the example trade and tutorial is just around the pricing. And this is always important, right? There is always a premium when it comes to non-KYC Bitcoin. You are paying a premium for the privilege of not attaching your personal identity to these purchases. And so as we can see in the case of SpikeToSpike, for anything above 1,000 USD, it is 5%. That's a 5% fee. Anything below 1,000 is 10%. And I will say that 10% is a lot. And I've, shared that. The good news is with competition, I suspect these rates come down over time. But do know that going into this, right? You're paying a premium. 5%, by the way, is about average. Like that's what I would expect. But I do think for the lower amounts there, 10% is a fair bit higher than what you might see elsewhere. But to help with that, they do have a referral sort of program. So I will link my sort of referral link in the description down below. You can click on to get 20% off your trading fee. So if you're making greater than $1,000 trade, that means 4% instead of 5%. If you're making a less than $1,000 trade, that means 8% instead of 10%. So a little bit of help. And so you can either click on that link directly in the description down below, or when you're in the trading experience, the bot will ask you if you didn't come in from the link itself, it'll ask you, hey, do you have a referral code? And you can put that referral code down as Joltz, Joltz. It's interesting that the SpikeToSpike team set that code. That's actually my Bitcoin startup, Joltz. If you're not following us, by the way, little self-shill that you totally should be. We're going to be rolling out our self-custodial Bitcoin, Lightning, and Taproot asset wallet here very, very soon. So if you're not following us on Twitter, give us a follow. And if you're a developer looking to build on things like Taproot assets and Lightning, right, bringing those self-custodial payments into your apps, get in touch with me as well. But I digress. So that's the sort of nutshell on SpikeToSpike, how it works. Fees, important to acknowledge that trade-off. But with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the tutorial and take a look at a real trade. All right, so here I am on SpikeToSpike.com. You can see you are first greeted with this simple little interface where you're basically saying what is it you want to buy or sell, and where are you funding it from. So in this case, I definitely want to buy Bitcoin, and you can see there are different options that you can use to buy that, USDT being one of them, and then a number of different payment options across different fiat denominations. So for example, you've got things like Revolut built into here. For my purposes today, I am going to select USD. And there is currently a minimum, a buy minimum of $200. So we're going to do the minimum today. I suspect that will probably be relaxed at some point in the future. And just keep in mind, it doesn't look like there is an eighth sort of decimal place here. So this is not 30,000 sats. This is 306,000 sats. Okay, so we're going to buy $200 worth of Bitcoin. Let's go ahead and proceed. And we can now select whether we want to receive that on-chain, over Lightning, or even Liquid, which is very cool. Let's go ahead and do on-chain for now. And then for payment method, you can see that the two options currently supported are Wise and Revolut. So I have just set up a Wise account. I am also told there will be things like Zelle added for those of you in the US. So we'll select Wise here. So we're ready to go ahead and proceed. What this is doing is it's copying a Telegram trade code, and it's going to move us over to this Telegram SpikeToSpike trading bot. We'll open this in web. You can see I was testing out a little bit a couple weeks back. Let me go ahead and paste in the order ID that was created. And so it says, hello, I will be with you shortly. Okay, it does look like they're still working through some translation stuff. So this got started in the Brazilian market and has had quite a bit of success there. And so you can see that this is in Portuguese. So I'm assuming that will you will be able to somehow change that language. So we've got our friend Safety in here who's going to help us out with this trade. But we can basically see, right? You know, we're buying $200 worth of Bitcoin over Wise, and we're receiving that on chain. And okay, there we go. So we do have the option. This just automatically comes up, I guess, once you start the process. But we will do English here. Okay, so I've got this little coupon here that has been applied. I've now been presented with this information for the Wise account that I am supposed to send the $200 to. So this is the sort of name. I also get the other information here. So if we go back to my Wise account, I can go ahead and go to send, and we're sending 200. The recipient gets exactly 200. It's a little bit of a fee in sending from Wise. And so I'll go ahead and hit continue. I'm going to search Wise because I have that Wise tag. And so I'm going to search for Hector. There is Hector. I'm going to go ahead and send, and I'll review all the information. I'll put in my password to approve the transfer. Okay, so that has now been sent. Okay, and as we can see, your payment has been processed. And you will proceed with the transaction. Please wait a moment. And so we will present the address. And so I'm just going to grab over from my Albi Hub. I just did a video on this in my last video. I'm going to grab this on-chain address because, again, that is what we selected at the outset. I'm going to paste in my address. All right, and then as we can see, probably about 25 minutes or so. So do be advised, it can take a little bit of time. I'm not sure if that differs depending on if it's Lightning or, you know, versus on-chain. And then I get my order details. And so this gives me the amount that was sent, 279,000 sats. Again, that's reflective of the 10% fee in this case, given that this was under $1,000. Although I suppose 8% plus the network fee that you're going to pay for on-chain, so you can avoid that if you do Lightning. And then importantly, it gives you this transaction hash, so you can copy this guy and come over to mempool.space or use your own block explorer of your choice, and you can copy that in and indeed see. I'm filming this very last part a little bit afterwards, so you can see there's been a ton of confirmations. But if I had done this in real time, you would see this pending in the mempool, and you would know that it is on its way. It gives you the trading price that this was executed at, and that actually seems quite close to me. I don't know that like a spread was built into that, which is really cool. But again, you know, fairly chunky fee with the fee itself. And then, you know, they're sharing some content here while we're waiting, and then the final confirmation of the order having been successfully completed. Once, in this case, there's 3 on-chain confirmations. So very, very cool stuff. And indeed, we can see that reflected in our Albi Hub. We've got that 277,800 sats that we just purchased. And that was without providing any personal information whatsoever to SpikeToSpike. So very cool stuff. With all that, let's go ahead and conclude today's video. All right, so there you have it. Today we took a look at SpikeToSpike, a new tool facilitating peer-to-peer buying and selling of Bitcoin. And I must say, despite the early nature of this project, right, we talked about that earlier in the video, I must say that was a pretty awesome experience. I like the Telegram bot experience. Again, I'm told it will be even easier in the mobile app once they launch that over the next month or two. And this is a really powerful tool to have in your arsenal, right? Especially with that sort of vetted community of these sort of peer-to-peer providers. But I'm curious to hear, what are your thoughts? What do you think of SpikeToSpike or other tools for acquiring non-KYC Bitcoin? Of course, there's other methods as well. You could mine at home. You could sell your goods and services for Bitcoin. You could do all sorts of things. But when it comes to buying it in size, something like SpikeToSpike is a fantastic option. But I hope you found this valuable and insightful. If you did, you already know what to do. Give this video a like. Use the share feature underneath this video. That really does help get this to a broader audience. And if you were so enamored with this content, you want to donate to a pleb, which really does help me continue to make these videos, you can do so in a number of ways. There's the YouTube Super Thanks feature built directly into YouTube, or you can zip some sats my way on the Lightning Network to my Lightning address, ragermajor@getalbi.com. And for those of you that want to get in touch with me, I'm now working with a number of clients one-on-one on all sorts of topics, taking self-custody, setting up a multi-sig, running your own Bitcoin node, Bitcoin privacy best practices, building on what we covered today. You can reach out to me at vida.io/IanMajor. But with all that, we'll go ahead and leave things here. As a reminder, every sat counts, especially if you didn't give up your firstborn child and all your information to acquire it. And until next time, my friends, I'll see you then.